Hey guys, welcome back to another video on
Talks with Timmy.
That's right, and I know it's been a very long time since my last video for you guys, but today is going to be very special because we're going to cover one of the top news categories. That's right, the coronavirus. And we're going to specifically be talking about Japan's response to this global outbreak and epidemic in the world. But before we get straight into it, you probably want to get a bit of background information, especially if you don't know much about this virus, or if you haven't done your research, or if you've been stuck in a closet for the last 3 months. So we'll get straight into it. But first, let's look at the story thus far.
The story thus far.
The coronavirus originated at an animal market in Wuhan, China back in December 2019. Those who've been infected by this disease generally suffer from symptoms including high fever, bad coughing or sneezing, or anything that generally affects the respiratory system. So far, the statistics show that over 80,000 people across the globe have been infected by this pneumonia-like disease, with over 74,000 of those people being in China. In China alone, they've suffered over 2,000 deaths. In Japan, though, only 11 people have died so far from this disease, but there are still 947 people currently infected. Majority of those infected, 705 people to be exact, are on the Diamond Princess docked in Yokohama, which has experienced about 6 deaths. So, what has Japan done so far in response to this epidemic? Well, they've only really declared it a pandemic about 2 to 3 weeks ago. In the lead up to this, however, there's been a lot of events that have occurred. Things like people buying all the masks. All the masks are gone. They are sold out. There's mask shortages, but everybody's wearing them in Japan. The second thing that's just happened recently is all the toilet rolls have been sold out. People have gone into panic mode. They've bought all the toilet rolls, and there's quite a few reasons for that, which I'll get to later. But the most, I guess, important announcement was made by the Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Shinzo Abe, on February 28th, where he announced that he will be asking all of the schools in Japan nationwide, from elementary to high school, to close early. So, starting from today actually, and one of the reasons why I'm at home right now to record this video for you guys, is that all the schools are closed from March 1st all the way till April. So it's about 4 weeks, all the way through spring vacation as well. So currently right now, Japanese students are kind of in a bit of a disappointing time, because it's a bit of a sad time for them, because mainly this is the time where they'll really celebrate their graduation ceremonies, the entrance ceremonies for their new schools, and they'll probably be doing their final exams. But really, you can't really do much when there's a deadly disease stalking everybody out in the open. I guess the main aim of closing down all these schools is the government's attempting to reduce the possibilities of people being infected in large groups, in large crowds. Because it's such a contagious disease, which can be passed from person to person through sneezing, physical contact, just spreading everywhere, they're reducing the number of large crowds or people gathering in large areas. In my opinion, or from what I understand and what I can see, it's actually probably a very good call on the part of Prime Minister Mr. Shinzo Abe, because from a technical and logistical point of view and statistical point of view, it's probably going to be a lot easier to quarantine / deal with and cope with people who are being infected individually. So if a child or someone does get infected outside of school, it's a lot easier to deal with that person individually. Whereas if they're in large crowded areas and one person gets sick or gets infected by this coronavirus, because of its highly contagious nature, everyone in the room or in that space has the chance of being infected as well. So rather than having to quarantine an entire concert of people or an entire room of people or an entire stadium of people, they've decided that no, we're going to try and disperse these large crowds so that we can deal with them on an individual case-by-case basis. On another note as well, a lot of major events have been cancelled. Things like baseball games have been cancelled. Disneyland has just closed its doors. You don't want to have to go what you would call Disneyland, your dreamland, fantasy world, and have it ruined by some virus, right? Another thing that's been cancelled is possibly live concerts and basketball games, really all your major sporting events and concerts, really. BTS, I think, in South Korea has also just cancelled their concert as well and their tour of Japan due to this deadly outbreak. Also, for the first time in the history of sumo wrestling, their spring tournament has decided that there will be no audience. So they will still have the bout, but there will be absolutely no spectators during this important major tournament. However, they have said that it may be cancelled for the first time ever in the history of sumo wrestling if they find that one of the sumo wrestlers is infected with the coronavirus. So that'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. So going back to the masks, why we've got a mask shortage. Here in Japan, it is recommended right now that in order to prevent yourself from catching this virus is to make sure that you keep washing your hands and you wear a mask at all times, unless you are at home alone in self-quarantine. Having said that, so far there hasn't been any particular proven scientific evidence to show that wearing a mask or washing your hands or sanitizing your hands is going to prevent you from being infected by the coronavirus. I think I just saw a report today that in actual fact, if you're not used to wearing a mask, because you have to touch your face to adjust the mask all the time, you're probably more likely to be infected. So that's a really good tip for you guys. If you're not used to wearing a mask, just don't wear one. One other important difference that you got to make sure that you understand is that it is a virus. It's not a bacteria or a germ. Bacteria and germs you can kill with soap and hand sanitizer, but a virus is something that just you catch. You can't prevent it. You can't wash it. You can't clean it. It's a really microscopic thing. It'll get you either way. So going on to the toilet rolls, all the toilet rolls have been sold out across the country. I hear that in my home country as well, in Australia, that people have gone into panic mode and buying mode as well for the toilet rolls and emergency supplies, because they treat this like a natural disaster, especially here in Japan. Whenever there's a natural disaster, the first things to go is toilet paper, toilet rolls, whatever you want to call it. All the tissue boxes have gone. With the toilet rolls, the most interesting thing that it boggles my mind, I don't know why, but the toilet rolls actually themselves, the reason why they're sold out and people have gone into panic mode for buying the toilet rolls is I've heard of two main reasons. The first reason is because I believe that most of the toilet rolls have been manufactured in China. Now, currently, China has shut off its borders for the time being in order to contain the virus in their own country and to prevent it from leaving China and infecting the rest of the world, which unfortunately they failed to do, and it's already in the world. So what they're just going to do is now slow the spread down, slow it down. Anyway, going back to it, toilet rolls. So they believe that most of the toilet rolls are manufactured in China, hence with China having its borders closed and most of those things going into quarantine, they are fearing that there will be a shortage, and hence they've gone into panic buying mode. Second reason why toilet rolls are out of stock from what I understand, is apparently some people are under the impression that you can make temporary masks out of toilet paper. Because masks are made out of paper, why not use toilet paper to make temporary masks? Which, okay. But if, look, I don't think it will work, but if it does work for you, let me know in the comments below and prove me wrong. Those are some of the reasons or the responses that Japan has made towards this virus in this epidemic. So the coronavirus is quite dangerous for a lot of people, but there are some good things amongst the bad things of this outbreak.